Hello, everybody. So, hope you guys can hear me right now. I wanted to do this live earlier, actually, to be honest, but unfortunately, a few of you have told me that you guys couldn't make it for the live and to shift the timing elsewhere. So, that's why I'm doing the live right now instead of earlier this morning. For those of you who couldn't make it, that's why I shifted the timing right now. And yeah, so I'm going to be answering a few questions that I had in my content request page at the moment. And if you guys have any questions, just put it down in the comments as well. Or you can just private message me your questions as well in this live, and I'll be answering all your questions. So, the first question that I had earlier was how to handle resistance without feeling guilty um, for not being in the wish fulfilled, essentially. And one thing that I wanted to say is that when you are in your wish fulfilled, that is your birthright. You are worthy just as you are right now, right? Like you guys are inherently worthy. Like the very fact that we are now living, breathing right now, right here, is evidence that we are worthy of all of our desires. And the thing is that you don't have to feel guilty for wanting something, be it an SP or be it wealth of whatsoever. You don't have to feel guilty because you were given that desire for a reason, right? We often know, okay, where desires like what our desires are and things like that, but we don't ask, like, okay, where does our desires come from? Where do they actually come from? And we don't realize that they are divine directions, essentially. If you have a desire, that means that one, it is capable of happening, and two, you are meant to experience that, if anything. So do not be concerned as to like whether or not you're worthy of it or whatsoever. The very fact that you have that desire is evidence that you can not only achieve it, but you're absolutely worthy of achieving it. So I just wanted to clarify that, in case any of you guys are also feeling that right now, because this is a common like a dilemma that many people have. Like if they want a certain SP, who is a celebrity, for example, or if they want tremendous amounts of wealth, right? I always tell people, like, if you have that desire, it means that you are capable of receiving it. Hi, how are you doing? So if you guys have any questions, you guys can put it in the questions as well. And yeah, hi. I hope you guys can hear me, by the way. I'm not sure how my audio is working at the moment. So if you guys can acknowledge if my audio is clear, that would be great. Because right now I'm just going, not sure if my audio is clear at the moment. So yeah. Okay, so I have a question here. Basically, okay, thank you. So there's a question here that says, how to be fearless, be courageous regarding everything we want, and just don't sabotage our desire. So it really depends on the desire. Like, I think a little bit of context would help here. Maybe I can answer your question better. But for the time being, okay, so how to be fearless? As in, I think a lot of people might be concerned about the path, the bridge of incidents that they might be taking towards their desire. And they might think, okay, you know what, it's going to be a roller coaster ride towards my desire. Therefore, I might not be able to, withstand that roller coaster of a ride, for example. So that could generate a bit of fear. Or, you might even be thinking, okay, am I ready to experience this? Yes, I want this, like wealth, or manifesting marriage with SP, for example. Yes, you guys want it, but the question is sometimes, are you ready for it, right? So that could be something that could generate a bit of fear within us, and make us think, like, okay, are we even ready for this? I'm not courageous enough for whatsoever. So that could be something that could rise in our minds, and as a result, a lot of doubts and concerns might come up. And also when you're discussing it with others, they might throw in a few other doubts as well. And overall, it's due to these types of reasons one might feel fear or lack of courage, essentially. The way I would deal with it is focus on the end. Like, if you are experiencing your desires, if you are living in the end, like if you are imagining yourself in first person view, what you can do then is basically see yourself like doing all the tasks. Like, for example, if let's say you want to become a pilot or you want to become a doctor, you might not even have taken a step yet towards those desires. And when you're thinking about it, those things might be daunting initially. But what I would encourage is repetition of a certain visualization. Like maybe you are giving advice to your patients, or maybe you are flying your plane, and really immersing yourself in that scene, like seeing yourself controlling the plane, or seeing yourself like operating on a patient, for example, and really seeing yourself in your first person view, not as a third person, in your first person view. The reason why I emphasize first person view is because it's going to like make it more believable for you. So when you do that consistently, you will be less fearless and more courageous for sure. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, so you said desire of having abundance of money, but without doing much and thinking about anything. Money can come in anywhere. I mean, we are programmed to think, okay, it will only come from a certain place, right? Like for most of us, it's our job or business. One thing that I always tell both myself and my clients is, if you are an entrepreneur, right, like if you are having a business, I always tell them, counterintuitive as it might seem, to separate the idea of business away from the idea of money. Because business is something that you do because you are interested in something, because you are passionate about something. But money is something else, to be honest with you. Because as startups, for example, they burn through money like nothing. Like it's entrepreneurship is a tough endeavor sometimes. There are a lot of challenges that you go through initially. And if you are expecting money to come from that, especially in the initial days or even later down the line as well, you're only going to put so much pressure on yourself that the idea of being an entrepreneur becomes unenjoyable. But if you are separating the idea of a business and money, for example, it becomes easier for you, because you are saying like, okay, money can come to me anywhere and I'm going to be doing this regardless. If you come at it from that perspective, it will really help you. So in this case, for having abundance, my point is that money can come from any possible source. It doesn't have to be from your job or your business again. And so as a result, you can think about, okay, how can money come to me? If I exclude my business or my job or anything to do with my career even, how else can money come to me? And I want you guys to make a list of it, maybe, and like list down all possible scenarios. Okay, somebody can give me money. I can win a lottery, for example, or I can, like get a higher paying job, for example. Even that could be one thing. Or you might be called to do something else, or you might bump into somebody, a friend of yours, who is filthy rich, or you might marry someone who is extremely wealthy, for example. I'm not saying you should do it for those reasons, but I'm saying you can go into wealth very easily. Neville had a couple of different stories, and I will list them down in the description of this video. By the way, there will be a replay of this video, but there was this one story where this lady wanted nothing but extreme wealth, and even after getting her wealth through her husband and everything, she still wanted more. And what ended up happening was, one of her cousins, for some strange reason, she knew this guy had money. And even though nobody really spoke with him or whatsoever, she would call him for the occasional dinner, and she would keep in touch with him here and there. And this guy died early, and in his will, turns out he has only written this lady as the sole inheritor of all his wealth. And this guy had invested in like stocks back in the day, and it was like accumulating to millions and millions of dollars. So my point is that money can come to you in any way, shape or form. And obviously, this lady didn't do anything in the 3D to obtain that wealth, right? But even despite that, she got her wealth. And there's another story. This is one of my favorite stories. It's where this lady imagined the idea of having all of the things that she wanted, including wealth. This is where the "isn't it wonderful" method originates from. She just imagined wealth, or the feeling of, okay, what if all of my desires are fulfilled? Because at that point she was in her 50s, she wanted a job, but in order to get a job, for example, her car was breaking down and things like that, for example. So what she did was go into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And she said, isn't it wonderful that I have all my desires? And when she did that, long story short, she got $2,500 for the rest of her life, because one of her mutual friends bumped into another friend who heard about her and told her that she's going to receive this amount of money for the rest of her life. Initially it was for 2 years, and then it got extended to the rest of her natural life essentially. And if you adjust it to inflation right now, that's about 15,000 or something like that, if I'm not wrong. So my point is that money can come to you in any way. Again, all you have to do is go straight to the end, because if you can see the end, then the way in which you will get to the end is also a guarantee. And even if we don't know the how, that is still a guarantee. It doesn't detract from that fact. So I hope that answers your question. I have a success story to tell you. Will DM you soon. Yes, I'm looking forward to hear that. Thank you. Okay, so I have another question here. Hello, I'm having negative thoughts about third parties in SP Live, but I know there isn't anyone. But still, thought triggering me how to handle it. He is celebrity too, but I don't care about it actually. Okay, if there isn't any, right, it's better not to sabotage yourself by thinking about it. So what I would say is that how do you handle it? You can always say things like you're the one and only one in your person's eye. Even if you have not met, I would say construct scenes where you are hanging out with this person, where you are going and experiencing life with them. Maybe you're going on a vacation with them, or maybe you're just going on a trip with them somewhere, or just watching a movie, or going shopping with them, or whatsoever. Something that implies that you're already coupled with this person, right? It's something that implies that you're already in union with this person, because that way what would end up happening is that becomes your primary focus essentially, right? You're not thinking about okay, what is going on, whether or not they have a third party and whatsoever. So you have to replace those thoughts with thoughts of union, and you have to keep coming back to that. And initially there might have been a little bit of a struggle, but I think as you do this again repeatedly, that's when your momentum will start to shift essentially. And also don't forget about self-concept, because if you are focused too much on this person, or what they are doing, or what whether or not they might be having partners, etc., that somewhere means that you're not putting the emphasis on yourself and how awesome of a person you are. So remind yourself of that too. And so that, plus the idea of you being in union in general, even if it's not with that person, if you are just imagining okay, I'm now in a loving committed relationship, even that would help you to detach from this person, but also take the emphasis away from them and whether or not they have a third party. And as a result things will shift in a way that is favorable for you. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, there's a couple other questions right now. Okay, yeah, I'm glad that was helpful for you. Thank you. I'm also answering the private ones, by the way, because some people are messaging me in the private ones as well as publicly. Okay, so there's one more. Hey, I have a question. What if we want to manifest two different things, like a job abroad and an SP in my home country? Isn't it contradicting both desires? Okay, in this case, absolutely, it is a bit contradicting right now, because you see, you want to manifest a job abroad, but at the same time you also want to manifest a SP in the home country. So you have to ask yourself, okay, what is it that I actually want? Like, do I think that SP won't move to the country that I want them to be in for some reason? You have to ask yourself, okay, why is it that I have two seemingly contradicting desires? And I think like if you tackle that, like this will become more easier for you. It's not that you can't manifest two different things, but if there is this story right there that okay, but these two desires are contradicting, what would end up happening is you would start to question the how, right? Like, how will it be all possible? And that question will be plaguing you even well into your midway throughout your desires. Like, let's say if you're affirming or something, this doubt can pretty much creep up on you all the time. So you have to ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish here? If nothing was a limit for me, like how would I actually manifest these two things, right? If there was no obstacle, would I want my SP to be in the country where I'm working, or would I want to still be in my home country and do something else basically? So if you come at it from that perspective, maybe something might become clear for you. Oftentimes when people want two seemingly different things, it's because they think that one thing can't happen in a certain way. There is some sort of a limiting belief, be it in the form of an obstacle or be it in the form of a person's thought pattern. For example, in this case, it could be the SP may not want to move abroad, for example. So you have to fix that essentially, and your desires, both of your desires will come into alignment, and you wouldn't be thinking about the how from thereafter. Okay, so there's this question of, I want to know about time crunch manifestation in SPKs, like in time frame. So I have a few videos on that. You can check my playlist in the SP playlist in my channel. But essentially, the idea is that, okay, if you're manifesting SP within a time crunch, say by Christmas or by the New Year's for some reason, one thing is, you have to completely go all in. Like completely go all in, as in like the way like Neville manifested his trip to Barbados, basically, right? Like when Abdullah, when he tried to question Abdullah, like what did Abdullah do? Like shut the door. And so you have to go all in terms of your belief. You are not supposed to let your doubts creep in. You are just supposed to fill your head with the idea that you are now in a loving, committed relationship with your SP, and you're not supposed to entertain anything else. And above that, that means also not peeking under the curtain to see if it's working. And if you can do that, pretty much like daily, and that's not to say that, okay, you're supposed to affirm like 10,000 times or whatsoever, but it's more like a thought pattern, a knowingness that you cultivate, and sustaining that knowingness. Like if I were to wake you up and ask you what's your name, you wouldn't think twice before telling me what your name is. And we are supposed to cultivate that level of knowingness with regards to our desires. And if you can do that and sustain that, your desires can come to you in a very short period of time, to be honest with you. And that's the key right there. If you want to manifest in a time crunch, that's pretty much it. Like you are supposed to go all in, develop the knowingness that you are now in a loving, committed relationship with your SP, and visualize whatever that implies that, right? Like you create a scene that implies that, and you stick to that no matter what the 3D shows, and remain in that vision, remain in that knowingness until it comes to pass. That means not giving in to what your friends might say. That means not worrying about what your SP might be posting on social media, for example, and basically turning off that part of the 3D vision, basically, and just relying on your inner world. And in the meantime, yes, you go by your life, you do all the things that you would be doing anyway, because you know that your union with your SP is basically an inevitability right there. Okay, there's one more. Okay, hey, I have been manifesting my SP for 1.5 years now, and I got to know a few days back that he got married. I saw a lot of signs. I was working on myself, but now I just feel my faith is broken. What do you suggest? So, again, if you saw a lot of, one thing I would say is that right now, no hope is lost, right? Like you can still manifest your SP. So let's just get that out of the way. One thing that you said here that kind of caught my eye is that you saw a lot of signs. What that means to me is that you still somewhere placed your emphasis on the 3D, right? I actually gave a pretty much a tough love session for one of my clients recently, where she was telling me that with regards to one of her desires, she feels a lot lighter now. And I pointed out to her that the only reason that she felt that way was because there was a huge sign in the 3D that allowed her to essentially relax about the whole thing. And this is a common pitfall amongst the community, because oftentimes they rely on signs in the 3D to feel better. And my question is, okay, if I were to take that quote unquote sign away, are you still going to keep your faith? And if the answer is no, that means you're still being a slave to the 3D. And the thing is that if it's good, if those signs are quote unquote good, you feel better. But if they aren't if they aren't like favorable in your vision, at least, you will start to experience a different mood. What manifestation is supposed to do is completely detach you from the 3D and solely focus on your imagination, your inner world. And if you can depend on that compared to what's on the outside, you will not have those emotional fluctuations, number one. So in this case, what you should be doing is only relying on your inner world more so than you have relied on your external world. It's very easy to cling on to the external world for hope, to push yourself forward, but you should rely on your inner world all the time as much as you can. In the 3D, no matter what happens, like, you should never use that as a sign to motivate yourself. You should always depend on your inner world. So in this case, what I would do is, if you have been manifesting your SP for 1.5 years, I would see, like, okay, what have I been doing all this while? 1.5 years is a very long time, and it shouldn't take that long, to be honest. So that means there's something fundamentally that you're doing is pulling you back or holding you back, essentially. So you have to first figure out, okay, what is it that I'm doing that is potentially self-sabotaging right there. Number two, stop relying on 3D for confirmation or to push yourself. The 3D is never supposed to serve as a boost of any kind for you to go forward. Regardless of what I see or I don't see in my 3D, I am still going to do what I'm going to do. I'm still going to rely on my inner world and persist in my desires until they become true, regardless of what I see in my 3D. That is the level of conviction and faith that you should have, essentially. So if you figure out these two things, I think you should be fine. Okay, so what would be the best approach to let go and detach, like not obsessing over the result of the manifestation? So essentially what I would do is saturation of the mind is probably one of the easiest things that you can do, and that's why repetition is always emphasized, not just in the form of affirmations but also in the form of visualizations and whatnot. Repetition is always emphasized for that reason, because when you're seeing things repeatedly, your mind is so convinced that it's like a norm for your mind, and as a result your mind thinks, okay, this is norm, and therefore it's not on a pedestal, and it becomes easier for us to detach. If you keep seeing something repeatedly in your mind, that would be a great way to detach. And also, as I spoke about worthiness earlier, reminding yourself that, okay, with or without this, I am worthy just as I am, is also a way to detach yourself. Like, with or without this, I can still be happy. With or without this, I can still be worthy of all that I want. And reminding yourself of those types of things could also be a way to detach from these things. There's no specific way, if you ask me, to detach other than repetition. But the things that I always like come back to are thought patterns, thought processes that you can always embody in order to detach from yourself. So in this case, like reminding yourself that, okay, you are the only source of your happiness, and that nothing on the outside, be it a person or be it money, can really make you happy unless you want to be. Because you can have your SP and still be unhappy. You can have tons and tons of money and you can still be unhappy. So realizing that you are the source of it all will help you detach from those desires, because those desires won't seem that special anymore. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, there's one that asks how to quantum leap successfully. Okay, so in order to quantum leap, essentially you need a radical shift in mindset and sustaining that mindset, essentially. So quantum leaping, because one thing I want to firstly emphasize is that we are constantly shifting into a brand new reality. Like, that is a fact, right? Like, we are constantly shifting into a brand new reality every single second. But to experience a drastic shift in the reality that we are leaping into, in order to experience that, we should change our mind significantly. And more importantly, hold on to that so that you are able to see those rapid changes. So in order to quantum leap successfully, in my opinion, it's a radical shift in mindset and thoughts, and sustaining that so that you are able to see those thoughts differently. So that could mean, like, okay, if you are arguing with your co-workers or if you are facing any sort of work problems all the time, that means having a significant shift in terms of your mindset towards those situations and holding on to that regardless of what the 3D shows you. And that's where the challenge is for most people, but that's how you quantum shift. I hope that answers your question. Okay, I have to be in state where it is done. Got it. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I think I've covered all the questions. So if you guys have any other question, let me know. I'll just take a quick water break. Okay, I think I have a private question. Yes, it'll be on YouTube. It'll be on YouTube. No worries. Yeah. Okay, there was this one question I wanted to cover that was in my content creation page. I'll cover it really quick before anyone asks a question here. This person said, I'm from another country and my SP is from India. His parents didn't agree of us and not allowing us to be together and marry. His parents want him to marry with his cousins, but me and my SP is really fall in love each other. Need your help, may God bless you. So in this case, again, like the circumstances there are so-called pitted against this person, and this person seems to think that because of that there might be challenges. The simplest solution here, like what Neville would say or what Abdullah would say, is just imagine that you're already together with this person. Just imagine the idea that you're already happily married to this person and stick to that. Most people struggle because they tend to think about the how. And in manifestation, one thing is that you should never think about the how. You should never think about the how, because otherwise you're going to struggle with that. No one knows how, right? When Neville was manifesting his trip to Barbados, he didn't know how. Even Abdullah, I'm sure he didn't know how. Nor did he care about the how, because what matters is the end result. That's why when Neville went back to Abdullah, when things started to unfold in his favor, Abdullah didn't care. Abdullah was like, who told you that you're going? You went to Barbados and you went in first class, right? So that's the approach that you should have. If you ask me, is that you should be so focused on the solution that nothing on the outside should matter to you. Like, one thing that I've been telling some of my recent clients is be solution oriented rather than focusing on the problem solving aspect. In this world, like in corporate, or a lot of our world works by solving problems, right? There's even a saying amongst entrepreneurs where they say that if you can solve the bigger the problem that you solve, the more money you will make. And it's almost embedded in our society, this way of thinking. Okay, there's climate change. Okay, how do we solve the problem? Or if there's a problem of trash, for example, how do we solve the problem? That's the way the 3D operates. That's the way society has taught us to think. But manifestation teaches us the exact opposite, which is be focused on the solution, and the ways and means will emerge out of nowhere. Yes, this will be uploaded onto YouTube. This will be uploaded onto YouTube, titled Instagram Live Q&A, and I will post the dates as well. Yeah, no worries. So, again, coming back to this, you should be solution oriented, because when you do so, the ways and means will emerge out of nowhere, basically. Like in Neville's case, how it emerged out of nowhere, where he was focusing on being in Barbados and his brother stepped up, even though he wasn't in contact with his brother or whatsoever. And similarly, when you focus on the solution here, in this case with SP, the ways and means will come around. Like, you don't have to worry about the potential obstacles that might come along. That is not your job. Your job is never to worry or anticipate or strategize in any way, shape or form. Your job is to simply be focused on the solution, essentially. And when you're focused on that, the ways and means will come to you, basically. So don't worry about, okay, how will the parents agree, or how will we manage the distance and things like that. One thing that I realized, in my recent travels, is that the world is much smaller than we think. The world is much more interconnected than we think it is right now. And if you really want to be somewhere, now more so than ever, at the very most, you might have to take a couple different flights and you're where you want to be. It's not as difficult as you might think it is. And you might be thinking, okay, well, how will I get the money and things like that? But that is never your concern. Like, my point is that it's very easy to be on the other side of the world if you really want to be. We have the ways and means to it right now. And we are at a wonderful time right now in terms of the technology, to be honest. We are not at a time where, like in Neville's time, when he was growing up in his youth, there were not even commercial planes. Right now, we can cross the Pacific within 16 hours, which is crazy to think about. And so my point is that don't let things like distance, or don't let other people agreeing or disagreeing to your dreams being an obstacle. You are the operant power, therefore you are the only one with free will, and all that is required from you as the operant power is to only imagine the end result. Be solution oriented. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, so I have a few more. I want to manifest new SP with all qualities in him, and I'm losing interest in my current SP. I don't understand what should be done, manifesting new SP or recreating current SP. Okay, so this is a interesting, sort of dilemma that many people have. Manifest a new person or manifest the current one, through recreating them, basically. And it really depends on a case by case basis, I would say. If in the perfect world, I would always tell people to go general with like specific qualities and things like that, and manifest a perfect person for them, more so than manifesting a specific person. Not that it can't be done, but one thing I've seen is it's much easier to manifest somebody in general, somebody who's unknown, but we are just focusing on, okay, how does this person make me feel? How does this person love me? And because there's no contradicting story to that, it's so easy for you to imagine those things. And what ends up happening is that you immerse yourself in those feelings that much more easily, so you feel it real easily, and you can sustain that feeling longer. And so as a result, you are going to bump into people who might fit that description that much more frequently. And you might find yourself being in a relationship sooner than you think. So definitely, I think manifesting somebody new with specific qualities, it's a lot easier in my opinion. But if you ask me, which one should you be doing, that's up to you. It's not to say that manifesting an SP is difficult or whatsoever, but it really depends on the story that you have with this person. Like, what's the history with this person, and are you able to see past that history consistently? Because for some people, they really can't, especially if, let's say, you're in an abusive relationship in the past, for example, or if this person did something very bad to you, or they had said something to you that was really nasty, for example. It may not be the easiest thing in the world. Not saying it's impossible, but it may not be the easiest thing. And the question really there is, are you willing to persist in that and really, tough it out right there to see this through? And it might not be the easiest of journeys, and I don't mean to deter anyone from manifesting an SP, by the way, but I've seen this in a lot of people's journey now, and I know which one is easier as well. So it really depends on you, how much you're willing to basically tough it out. Essentially, that would make all the difference here if you're manifesting a SP or manifesting someone in general. But if given a chance, I would say go general, not just with SP but with anything, because when you're going general, the amount of resistance is almost zero, because you don't have any stories to contradict your claim, essentially. So this person said, recreating sometimes frustrating, and I just don't want to hurt him or don't want to face judgment. Honestly, you are not going to hurt anyone by manifesting them into your life, and you shouldn't care about judgment, even if it's from others or whatsoever, because it's your reality. You should only be focused on your happiness, your peace of mind, and whatever that you want, rather than focusing on other people, to be honest with you. Because at the end of the day, when you're 80 or 90 and you look back at your life, You're not going to be worrying about what others said or what others wanted. You're going to be worried about what you wanted at that point. And if you don't go after it right now, you're the one who's going to be regretting. And there's no worse feeling than regret, if you ask me. So ask yourself, okay, will this matter? Will the judgment of this person matter in 50, 60 years from now, or 10 years from now for that matter? And if the answer is no, don't bother yourself with it. Keep it simple for yourself. So I hope that answers your question. You're welcome. You're welcome. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions, you guys can ask me. I don't have a question at the moment. I'm scrolling to see if I missed out. If I had missed out a question, please let me know. These are great questions, by the way, because I think like it also helps others as well. So I'm glad you guys are asking questions. That is not just helpful for your situations, but I think it's also helpful for others as well. I'm a bit disappointed. Me and my SPI no contact, that is making me disappointed. No contact is probably a blessing, contradictory to what many people might think, to be honest, because it's not the no contact that's the issue here. It's more about the meaning that we give the no contact that becomes an issue. In my opinion, like if you think about it, no contact is something that you can use to your advantage, because your SP is not constantly showing you unfavorable behavior, therefore allowing you to rely more on your inner world, sustaining the ideal version of them in the meantime. Like it's so challenging for folks. I've seen this as well, by the way, and that's why I know how struggling it can be for someone to do this. Like for example, if you are manifesting your SP, right, and you're trying to persist in the ideal version of them, and the 3D is showing you the old version of them that is contradicting all the values and beliefs of the ideal version, it is so challenging for you to keep your head in the game. Whereas with no contact, on the other hand, you're able to just persist in the unseen and do it with ease without any resistance, all due to the fact that you don't have any contradictory information staring at your face all the time. So don't depend on the 3D for contact or no contact, and don't let that bug you. And to be honest, for most people, you're not aiming for contact. That's not the point of this. Your aim, right? Remind yourself of that. Like, what is my aim? My aim is union with my SP. My aim is never contact or a text message or a phone call, right? My aim is union with this person, and that is what I'm going to be focused on. So if I were you, I would come back to that again and again and again. Is, okay, what am I manifesting? Union. And so I'm going to focus on that in my reality, in my inner world, in my imagination. I'm not going to let this 3D get to me. If I can see the union in my end, then this does not matter, for I know every single step, however unlikely it may seem, is still leading me to my desires. And I'll keep coming back to that again and again and again, to be honest. So don't be disappointed by it. Use that to your advantage. Again, no contact is not a big deal. Like it's really not the end of the world. So don't let that get to you. Use this time to focus on your union with your SP in your mind, right? Come up with scenes, imagine that again and again. Don't let 3D circumstances like hold you back from imagining that end scene. And people have this also misconception that if I were to focus on my end scene, somehow it's going to take forever. That's not true either, right? If you focus on your end consistently, if you persist in that, if you act as though it's a fact, chances are it will happen much quicker But of course, people think, okay, it's a quote unquote big desire. That's something that's being thrown around in the community quite often. Is if I were to aim for something like a marriage or moving to a foreign country with my SP in it, that feels like a huge dream. Therefore, I don't want to focus on that for the time being. But remember, it's all equal to the universe. Whether or not you want $1 or $1 million, whether you want union or a phone call or a text, it's all the same to the universe. So if that is the only thing that's preventing you from going all the way to the end, remind yourself that it's all same to the universe, and all you have to do is simply just focus on it. So I hope that answers your question. You're welcome. You're welcome. If you guys have any other questions, just let me know. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes before I go. Okay, there's one more. What if you can't decide which SP you want to marry out of two? Former SP and new SP. So ask yourself, okay, why is it that you have a new SP in the first place, right? Like, obviously there's this new person that you would see yourself with for a reason. Like, you're attracted to this new person for a reason. And if your goals were very clear in the beginning, one, you wouldn't find yourself in this position. And that's not a criticism per se, but like, that means like, okay, maybe you need to think about, okay, what is it that I wanted initially that I didn't get from my old SP, that I see myself getting from the new SP, for example. And maybe that could give you a bit more clarity as to which of the SPs that you would probably want to marry, basically. And if you can have the ideal qualities from both of these people, ask yourself, okay, which person am I leaning towards? And you can also draw out a table and look at it very objectively. Okay, what does this person have, what does that person have, and things like that. A lot of factors can come into play. Which country they reside in, how old are they compared to you, like what are their interests and hobbies. Because I say that not because it matters, but if you find yourself, a good litmus test is this, like if you find yourself trying to change too many qualities of a certain person, then chances are you have to ask yourself, okay, do I want this person, or do I like the idea of being with this person, and why? And that will give you a bit more clarity as to how you want to proceed with this. Like, a good rule of thumb is that if you find yourself maybe changing more than, say, 3 aspects of this person, then you can see like, okay, maybe this isn't the person that I want. I just like the idea of being with a partner, but maybe this isn't that person. So maybe you can look at it from that perspective to see if uh, which one would be more suitable for me. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, there's one more that says, what should be one's routine to manifest SP? For how many days we need to practice the technique? There's no cookie cutter approach there, and that is probably the most frustrating thing right there with people, is that because we are all unique, right? Like, our self concepts for different areas of our lives is completely unique. Like, for me, what works for me, right, like in one area of my life may not even translate to another area of life, technique wise. And that is true. Like, I can manifest certain things related to job or career very easily, but maybe when it comes to a family member, it may not be that easy. I've experienced that in my life time and time and time and again. Why? Because my self concepts for each area of my life is different. Now, I am one person, and if these things are different for different aspects of my own life, you can only imagine like how different will it be when you pit it against another person, or a couple hundred people, for example. So that's one thing you have to recognize. I say that because that's the reason why you don't have a cookie cutter approach there. What works for me may not work for you, but that doesn't mean you can't experiment with it or try with it or whatsoever. The bottom line is this, like, what works generally is in terms of days, I can't tell you how many days it might happen, but in terms of routine, the idea is that you stick to a routine, be it in the form of visualizing or affirmations or inner conversations, but you stick to a series of, you pick maybe two or three techniques and you stick to that consistently, right, throughout the day. And that means like whatever helps you remind you the idea that you are now together with your SP, right? Whatever helps you to think from that perspective, from that thought process, whatever helps you embody that thought process, I should say, is the perfect technique for you. And you do that consistently, both throughout the day and day after day. And for how many days, again, that is depending on you. Like, how soon can you believe this to be true? How soon can you believe this to be natural as possible? As natural as your name. Like, if this thought process is second nature for you, like if I were to bring the photo of your SP to you and ask you, okay, who is this person? You should be able to tell me, oh, this person is my husband or boyfriend, for example. And if you can tell that to me without second thoughts, without having a doubt, without any hesitation, then that means you are very close to receiving your desires, whether or not you see it in your 3D. So that's the way I would gauge my progress as well, is through the quality of my thoughts. But in terms of techniques, I would say anything that helps you sustain the idea that you now have your desires is the perfect technique for you. And for the number of days, as many times as you need to do that, to make it natural for you in your system. That would be the ideal way to go about it. I'm glad it gave you a lot of clarity. You're welcome. These are great questions, by the way. Yeah. I'll hang around for like a couple more minutes. If there's no other question, what I might do is do a live tomorrow as well, maybe. And I might combine those two when I post them on YouTube. True, totally resonated. I true believe in ending from the end. I'm glad you resonated with it. Yeah, because if you don't think about it from the end goal, right, and sustain that, then you're missing the point essentially. And I would say with most people, that's where they kind of fall short at these types of things, where when they are focusing on things that are outside of the end, when they focus on things that shouldn't concern them, that's when they inevitably delay the process for themselves. Oh, living from the end. Okay, got it, understood. You're welcome. So I'll wait just 2 more minutes. If there's no questions, I'll just end this live. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and for asking all your questions. I'm scrolling back right now to see if there's any other questions before I end this live. Okay, I think there's one more if I'm not wrong. Okay, so this person says, but it's been years and still no signs in the 3D. Again, if it takes years, like I think I answered in another person's question as well, where she said like it took 1.5 years or something. It's been 1.5 years. And the thing is, if it's taking years, that means there's something, like something that you're doing that is working against you. And yes, I did answer your question earlier. You can catch it in the replaying video. I'm not sure if you heard it, but I did answer your question. The 1.5 years one was one of the first ones that I answered, actually. Yeah. So coming back to this, I think I can still like answer both of yours, I think, because it involves years. if you're manifesting for years, I think there's something that is inherently wrong that you're doing, something that's pulling you back. Oftentimes, it's a thought process or a pattern that you're repeating that is sustaining or perpetuating this cycle. And so you have to ask yourself, okay, what am I doing to myself that is potentially self-sabotaging, right? And if I were you, I would see like what kind of thoughts am I having. Awareness of thoughts is very important. Like it's not a big deal to affirm for half an hour or an hour out of the day, but if throughout the day you are thinking unfavorably about your desires and you do that consistently, if you're checking the 3D or the forums and thinking, okay, why do these people have it and not me? Guess what? These are thoughts too. These are thoughts that will manifest as well. And you have to recognize that, because otherwise you're going to also be having such thoughts which will also be pushed out. All thoughts manifest. Therefore, you have to think, okay, what am I dominantly putting out there? Am I putting out there the dominant thought of union, or am I putting a dominant thought of defeat? And that's a question only you can answer for yourself. Yes, there'll be a replay on YouTube, and I'll link it in the story here as well for you guys to access it later. Can you give me an example for this pattern? Okay, so in the form of a SP, for example, I think this alludes to coming back to like folks manifesting a new person or recreating. Oftentimes it can come in the form of an old story. So, for example, if you are manifesting for years, chances are there's this story that you can't get past from this person. So every time you're trying to manifest union with them, what ends up happening is you tend to think about, yes, but this person did XYZ. And you get sucked into that thought very easily. And as a result, what ends up happening is you go through this constant back and forth, and you, in many cases, make no effort to bring your mind back to the ideal state of mind, to the ideal thoughts, and you allow your mind to go back and forth. So as a result, the dominant thought pattern wins there, which is oftentimes the unfavorable one. So that's the example that I hope that clarifies it for you. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I'm glad it answers your questions. So how should we overcome or resolve this pattern apart from awareness? You should have a willingness to drop the old story. That might seem very simple, to be honest, but it's really a willingness to drop the old story, to be very honest. Because the thing is that a lot of people, I would ask them, like, if they're going back and forth all the time, and you kind of have clients who go through this from time to time. And one thing I ask them is, listen, it's very simple in the sense that it's either you want this desire or you don't want this desire. And if you do want it, why would you sabotage yourself? Why would you shoot yourself on the foot, essentially, right? Like, why would you put yourself in a spot where you are struggling, basically? So it's really simple in the sense that it's either you go through this again and again and again, or you tell yourself, okay, enough is enough. I've gone through enough. I've struggled enough. I'm going to see myself through this till the end and persist in that. So to answer your question, it's more about becoming tired of your own patterns and having enough of them, therefore devoting all of your energy to stick to the new story, essentially. So that means, like, okay, if you are having this old story come up, you can say, okay, who is this story benefiting? Is this in alignment to what I want? And the answer is no. So then ask yourself, okay, why am I sticking to it then? And you are supposed to have this chatter with yourself, this pep talk with yourself again and again and again, until your mind is able to shift into that new story with ease, basically. So that's how I did it for myself, and that's how I teach my clients as well, which has worked for them. You're very kind. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Let me just take a sip of water again. When you're answering questions, you just lose hydration a lot, I guess. And a quick reminder, I am doing a giveaway as well to compensate for my YouTube giveaway. So it's actually for 1 month of DM coaching. So all you have to do is subscribe to this my YouTube channel, and basically any comment that you guys do will be counted as an extra entry. So when we reach 2,222 subscribers, I'll be announcing a winner basically. So yeah, if you guys would love to win a coaching giveaway, that would be a great way to do so. Every comment that you are doing will be taken into additional entries as well. So I'm keeping track of all the new comments that are coming into the channel. So if you are an active subscriber, just make it public, make your subscription public so that I'll be able to see it. So yeah, it's so nice to see some of you. You guys some of you have been following the page for a while now, so it's really nice to see some of you here. Do you regularly do live sessions like these? I intend to be honest. I just started school, so I'm not able to keep up to a regular pattern, to be honest. I did promise that I would be doing a live at the end of the month of November, so the closest weekend was in December, however, so that's why I'm doing it one right now. But I do intend to do more lives for sure. One of the reasons why I had to disable Instagram was just to have a bit more of a sustainable schedule. That's why I took a break from my main Instagram page. So right now with this, I think it's much more sustainable, and I think even after I open up my other page down the line, I will still keep this secondary page to do lives instead. Because I think it's much more sustainable, and it gives folks avenue to just ask questions. So I might just use this page just to ask questions basically. Yeah, and you can also look at the previous recordings in the channel as well. I have a playlist with all the lives in the past as well. So yeah, you guys can actually watch the old ones if you are interested in it, or if you had a question in the past, you guys can always get a okay, when will I be back with Instagram posts? Honestly, I don't have a plan right now yet. I didn't pressure myself to come back anytime soon, to be honest, because right now again it's a bit more relaxed for me because of that. So the thing about Instagram is that unless you're posting every day, it's not making a lot of sense to have one. And yeah, sure, folks can read your posts, but there's a lot of things that comes with handling a page, because folks can DM you all the time, and I didn't have an admin to manage my page or whatsoever. So having that Instagram page meant you have to be posting regularly, and it became a little bit unsustainable for me. So that's why I had to take a break from it to figure out a solution for me to make that a bit more sustainable for me. And I'm going through a bit of changes, like I said, with my school and everything. So I don't have a fixed answer for that, to be very honest, but I do intend to come back sometime for sure. It's just that I don't know when, and when I do come back, there will be changes for sure that will make that journey for me a bit more sustainable. Because I didn't take a break for the last 5 years. I didn't deactivate my page or anything like that. So I think this is the first time I did it in 5 years. So when I do come back, I do want it to be something that is a bit more sustainable, essentially. So yeah. But most of my posts will be here in this page for the time being. I have unarchived everything, so I'm glad I backed it up here, because because this is a private account. There's not a lot of things that I have to do on my end to manage it or whatsoever. But if you guys have any other questions in the meantime, my Facebook group is always open. My moderators are always there to answer your questions as well. These are people who are well versed in the law of assumption. They are also, somebody like I would trust as well. Some of them are very close friends of mine as well who are well versed in the law, and they know what they are talking about. So if you guys have any questions in the meantime and you would like a community support, you guys can always go to my Facebook group as well. So if there's no other questions, I will wrap it up in a minute. I'm seeing if there's any other questions. I don't think there's any. But thank you so much for joining, guys. I really appreciate taking the time off to join the live and participating by asking questions. I think it's helping a lot others as well. Okay, I don't think there's any other questions. I've scrolled through most, if not all of it at the moment. I will try to upload this as soon as possible. I might be combining this with another live that I will do in this weekend, because I don't think a lot of folks were still able to join despite the time change. You're welcome. So I will be doing another live soon within this weekend, maybe tomorrow at a different time maybe. And what I'll do is I will combine those two lives as I post it. Yeah, you guys are welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for all your questions. Have a great weekend ahead, and I'll talk to you guys soon then. Take care. Bye.